Hello, it's your main man, Andy Gillard here. Hope you're all doing well right now.
Hi, everybody. Matt Guy here for a Porky special.
Porky special indeed. We've only gone and got an interview with an actor, an actual proper, no fooling actor.
A bona fide actor.
Yeah, like proper actor. Like I looked at his IMDb page and he's been in Splash, Turner and Hoops. Like he's worked with Tom Hanks, for fuck's sake. I'm not a massive Tom Hanks fan, but that is impressive. And also, he was in Alf, which is one of my favourite shows from my youth. And also, Diagnosis Murder. Like, really impressive stuff for me. I did fanboy a little bit, I think, at times. So, yeah, it's David Knell, the man from Pig, which is going to be released this very weekend. I think it's on streaming. It's either on streaming services or you can buy or rent it. But I do think you need to see it in the cinema if it's playing near you. Hopefully it will be on at some indies. Matt, obviously we have just finished recording the interview. Any highlights that the listeners need to be keeping an ear out for?
I think what came across as really entertaining was, I don't know if David has, but if he doesn't, he needs to explore voice work and an impersonator, because he nailed accents, he nailed like other actors really, really well, really seamlessly. You could tell this is a guy that's been in the performing arts for a long time, and this kind of stuff isn't stuff that phases him. Whereas me and you might splutter a bit as we talk, or let nerves take control of us in a short way. But this is pocket change for an actor like himself.
Yep. So this is our interview with David Knell. Hope you enjoy.
We're recording.
No, that's new on me.
That was on my end. I think it's like when you do that, it says, they're recording this, and I go, yeah. So it's a good way of that giving me extra awareness not to stand up and show that I'm not wearing pants or something if I don't know it's being recorded.
Well, we're a fun-loving podcast. If that's what makes you happy, you do what you like.
Because nobody needs to see that. Really.
Fantastic.
So there's only two of you today,
yes,
right?
Yeah. Our third is at a wedding on a Thursday.
Who does that?
Cheap
Was that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's really cheap to do. Apparently,
it was just so. There you go. Yeah.
He's very disappointed he can't be here, but unfortunately,
are we talking smack about him behind his back? Or I don't even know what's his name.
It's Stu. Stu's the third one.
Stu.
Yeah.
You missed out, man.
He'll be furious because he missed out on the last one when I got to speak to Imwa, who was the guy who did the music on Willy's Wonderland. I don't know if you've seen that one, but Cage's film before this one.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's missed two in a row now, so he's very disappointed.
Was it his wedding?
No.
It wasn't even his wedding.
No, I don't know whose wedding it is, to be honest. He said it's the fifth one he's been to on a Thursday, though. So.
There's a theme. Are you sure it's not just the easiest excuse he had? Is that have you checked? Have you seen pictures?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So, did he give you a list of questions, things that he would ask, comments that he would make?
No, he hasn't.
Jeez, he's just totally unprepared here.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, he would probably say the most inappropriate thing at the worst time possible. That's generally his MO.
Okay,
that's how he operates.
I'll pick up that mantle there.
Fantastic, like part of the furniture. Brilliant.
True.
So, David, when we get guests on, we like to ask them three questions. Same three questions for everyone. So, the first question is: what is your favourite Nick Cage film?
Well, I kind of have to say the one I just did with him, and I'm not just cheating there. I didn't entirely understand Nick Cage for most of his career. I have to be honest there. Sometimes he does really great stuff, and sometimes he does stuff that he makes interesting and sometimes bizarre choices. And I watched prior to doing this movie. I've been asked. People ask me, "Have you done any research into being a chef for this?" And I said, "No, I had no no chefery to do in the actual performing of this movie. What was in the script was at one point opening that bottle of wine that we drink from. But I also realized when I had my costume fitting that there was only one chef's jacket, and it would be very likely that I would open the bottle of wine and it would go everywhere, and then we could not make the rest of the movie. So I suggested to the director that maybe the waitress should open the bottle of wine before that. So that was one part of my research was how to open a bottle of wine, and I actually went to a couple of restaurants nearby and said, so what would be the situation here? What kind of corkscrew would I use? And ultimately realized if you were the chef, it probably wouldn't really be you opening the wine anyway. You would just sort of, you open, go. So that's kind of what I did. Although they cut those cool hand gestures out. I'm making cool hand gestures for those of you who are listening on audio. So that was part of the research there. And then the other research was literally Googling, what's it like to work with Nicolas Cage? And because I was curious, I didn't know. I mean, he could have been anywhere on the spectrum. I mean, he could have been an asshole. He was decidedly not, which was great, but I didn't know, so, and I made sure that before we actually shot, I got to talk to the director, Michael Sarnowski. I got an hour with him on a Saturday just to talk about what I intended to do and to make sure we were all on the same page, and also to ask him sort of what the situation was with Mr. Cage. And he said that he was very collaborative and very supportive and very enthusiastic. And it was like, oh, good. Okay, good. So that when we actually got in to do the thing, it was, we got to play together, and that could easily have not been the situation. It could have been like in my imaginings, like a different scenario. If I was doing a scene with doing that same scene with Robert De Niro, if De Niro had been cast as Rob Feld, I could have easily seen us running the scene first thing in the morning, and De Niro turning to the director and going, "Is that what he's going to fucking do?" And then me going, "Oh no," and then pulling it way down and going, "Oh, this is super awkward." But Nick was not that way at all. We ran the scene, and he just he kind of leaned back and kind of went, "Wow, man, you really brought it." And I went, "Okay, good." So we had kind of a what seemed to be a real mutual respect, and and then we got to just play with it all day, which was really great. So that's kind of the loaded answer to the question, what was my favorite Nicolas Cage movie? Because I have so much in this that other movies I've seen, I kind of go, okay, or that was good, or Leaving Las Vegas, I thought he was damn good in.
Yeah.
And other things when he makes these really broad and really interesting choices. Well, also within part of the research, we're good. All of my sentences can be re-edited to make cohesive sentences, things that actually have an A, B, C, D. There was one of those things that they do on like GQ or Vanity Fair or something, those videos where actors go and talk about their most prominent roles. Yeah. And there was one of those that he did, and it was about a half an hour long. And I totally gained a lot of respect for him after watching that, because what he said in that was that really every choice that he makes is deliberate. It's not frivolous. It's, he really thinks about the choices that he makes, and he sticks with them. So he makes very bold choices. The most telling one for me was when he talked about doing Peggy Sue Got Married, which my friend Helen Hunt was in, played his daughter in that, and he didn't want to do it initially. And Francis Ford Coppola, who directed Apocalypse Now and The Godfather and things, was doing this sort of light romantic comedy and said to him, Nick, you should do this movie. And he said, I don't know, Uncle, it's not the kind of thing I want to do. I'm trying to do more, things that push me. I'm trying to do things that are interesting. And I don't know if this is it. And Coppola just kept pushing him. And he finally acquiesced. He said, I'll do it if I can do it using the voice of Pokey from the Gumby cartoons. Now, I don't know if you had Gumby and Pokey in Britain. It was a weird thing that we had in the 60s, which was claymation. It was
okay.
Gumby and Pokey were made out of clay, and Gumby was a green character with an oddly shaped head, and Pokey was his orange horse buddy. And that's literally the voice that he's doing in Peggy Sue Got Married. Fantastic. And he copped to that. That's like, I thought, well, he's doing something that sounds like Pokey, but no, he literally chose to do a cartoon character voice for this movie, which apparently Kathleen Turner did not find all that charming, because he had just come off of doing Birdie, I think, at that point. And that's what she thought she was going to be doing this movie with the guy from Birdie. And that was another kind of subdued performance. I'm going to move this because I keep nearly knocking it down. I've got this big glass Voss bottle, and I'm just going to, you're going to hear a shatter at some point. And that's just me, again, gesticulating wildly in my own thing. Anyway, so she said she thought that's what was coming in. And then in comes this kid doing this weird ass thing with his voice, but his choice to make it was really deliberate, and for some reason he thought that would help him with his character, and hearing him talk in all these other about his other roles, and he would just make these choices. And I think the thing that I really respected was that none of them were frivolous. It wasn't like he wasn't goofing with anybody. I've known actors who make choices like that seemingly just to fuck with people, whether it's other actors or expectations or something. But he really made those choices deliberately. And so I thought that was really interesting. So I was prepared for whatever choice he was going to make with Pig. And then coming to find out that his choice was to totally underplay it and just be the kind of the observer in all of this. Yeah. So it was really just a fascinating thing.
That's really interesting, because one of the reasons when we started this podcast looking at Nick Cage's films is that, as you said, some of his films are very hit and some are very miss. But he always gives it 110%. He always swings for the fences no matter what he's doing. And I think that's incredible. Like, there aren't many actors who are like that.
No, and God knows I've never been that. I've always that scenario I was talking about with the imaginary De Niro. It's like I look at some of my earlier stuff, and I might have gone in doing an interesting audition, but once the camera was on, in hindsight, I could see that I really pulled back and didn't hit for the fences in the actual performances. Or even to the point of like just, and that comes with age and experience, knowing how my face works, knowing, I mean, this is sort of my toolkit, right? So knowing how to communicate an idea or an emotion using this thing I have on the front of my head, and I didn't always know how to do that. So there are a few performances of mine where I look at and I can see where I kind of chickened out or didn't know how to project an emotion into the camera. Was experiencing it maybe and feeling it, but not getting it across as well as I'd wanted to. And he always, as you said, 110% goes for it to get that emotion out, and whether he succeeds in that or not is kind of subjective, I guess. But I love his bravery to a certain extent, and I guess, and after a while, I mean, after he's been doing it for so long, it just kind of became sort of an expectation, the people like it. So when this movie came out, when the trailer dropped and people had the premise and a couple of quick moments from the scene, everybody kind of assumed, oh, now Nick Cage is going to do this and he's lost his pig, so he's going to go completely apeshit because his pig and then it turned out not to be that at all.
That was it turned out to be. We were thinking this is going to be John Wick with a pig and Nick Cage, and we were a little bit apprehensive, got to be honest, going in.
We'd been burnt. We've been burnt a little bit by jiu-jitsu, didn't we? Which was kind of a similar kind of thing where, and a few of the trailers in the past, even for like kind of much earlier films, kind of like adaptation, the trailer for adaptation paints it to be a very different film than it is.
Oh, really?
I
remember the movie, which I enjoyed, but the trailer, how would you sell that? And why would you sell it that way? I get kind of what they do, and it's it's not the filmmakers who make the trailers, right? There's trailer guys who do that, and they're good at it, and that, which is a whole nother real interesting topic. Here's something you should do. Here's the thing. Here's for you. A freebie topic. Go take a look at all the trailers of every Nick Cage movie that's ever been out. Just break them down and see, like, did they accurately represent the movie? Because, when you go way back, the modern trailer, as we're kind of used to it, only started in the 80s. Prior to that, you look at trailers before that, and they sort of try to tell you what the story is, and to the point sometimes of just giving away the entire plot to get you into the theater. And when they started really just making it about that visceral experience of, for me, movie trailers are all about the moment where you go, ugh, or and that's it, right? Because that's you don't have time to tell the entire plot of the story, or if you would be interested, you're just trying to get people to a point of going, all right, okay, just to have that moment. And with this one, God, even when they dropped the synopsis of it, I was concerned, because that came out even before the trailer. The synopsis came out in December of 2 months after we shot it, and they said, this is a movie about Nicolas Cage, who's a truffle hunter, and he loses his pig. And even then, people said, John Wick with a pig, yeah, I'm down. And then it was like, and I remember just being in touch with the director and going, I hope that's not how they're pitching it. And he said, yeah, me too. But then again, what I have loved about the response has been the people who actually see the movie. 95% of them were going in with that expectation, and most of the reviews say, go see it anyway, even if that is your expectation, or trying to protect you from the same misconception that they had. Like, it's just not that. It's not John Wick. It's not Liam Neeson. It is entirely something different. And having said that, you should totally see it anyway, because it's that, which is real good. But yeah, just not knowing. I don't know. I honestly don't know what would be a better way to pitch it, because
I think if you pitched it as it is, the fact that it is so delicate yet so crushing as a film about grief and about coping with grief, I think that you need to be shocked into seeing this kind of movie to actually appreciate it even more. Because if you're going into it expecting it to be this quite brooding and quite thought-provoking film, it's not as shocking then. But going into it thinking something different, it blew me away in that respect, because I take in the nicest way possible, I was expecting the worst. because I thought, this is going to be John Wick with a pig, and it's so therefore it's going to be a cheap imitation. But Christ, it was anything but. And that was so refreshing.
isn't it? And I think that the other aspect of that is that there's a large percentage of the audience that I think that is going to see it and will enjoy it, that if they knew that's what it was about, just would not want to see it. There's a lot of people who go, I don't want to see a movie about emotions. I want to see something that's going to try and help me escape from stuff, from whatever it is that I'm going through. And in fact, I think it's so, particularly for this particular time, with the pandemic and everything, I love the fact that there's so many people who have been put into a position to try and to have to reassess their lives and their dreams, and their, just like with my character, when somebody who has gone and gotten the job and done the thing and are successful or maybe not successful, but have barely considered starting again from scratch with their lives, because you just don't think that's a thing. You think, well, I can't quit my job because I need the money or whatever, and the movie really does touch on so much of that about not just grief for the loss of a person, but a grief for the loss of what you really wanted to do, from childhood or whatever. And that's not a comfortable conversation to have. No. And it's not a conversation that I think people would willingly walk into.
Yeah, very true.
So you're telling me that when I'm done watching this movie, I'm going to feel like my entire life has been a sham. Sign me up, man. That's
I'll have a popcorn and a drink with that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of popcorn then, so our second question we ask is, what is your favorite cinema snack? You a sweet, salty popcorn man? No popcorn?
Definitely popcorn. Sometimes a hot dog, because that's a thing here. In the last bunch of years in the Pacific Northwest, they started serving actual food, like pub food, in movie theaters. So where you could get a beer and you could get pizza or a sandwich or anything, and that's I kind of like that, but always popcorn. That's just a given. And then I kind of cycle through other things, like I went through a long Raisinets period. I don't know. But sometimes putting M&Ms in the popcorn. That's it. That's a good one.
Yeah. Well, when we had Eamar on, he told us that you put Reese's Pieces in the popcorn. And I've tried that, and that's fantastic. Yeah. That's my jam now.
My only challenge with that is, like, I'll be having that with my wife, and somehow she gets easily 98% of the M&Ms. I reach for them, and it's until I get to the bottom and can actively locate them. They just elude me. But it's nice because it keeps the food interesting. You have to pay attention to the movie, so it's
Yeah. Are you a cinema goer, or do you prefer to watch it at home?
I really prefer to go to movie theaters when I can. This giant TV thing behind me is like the first TV I've owned in 25 years. Oh, wow. Our typical viewing experience in the evening is I take the computer that is in front of me and I bring it into the living room, and that sits on the coffee table, and that becomes our thing. And that's like a 27-inch thing. So that's, which is why I prefer, if you're going to see a movie, go to the movie theater and do it.
Totally fair. Completely.
Yeah.
And the final of our three questions, if you could watch only one film for the rest of your life, what film are you watching?
That would probably be a toss-up between The Big Lebowski and Magnolia.
Oh, wow.
Great choices.
Magnolia, I love for the same reason that I love Pig, except that I wasn't in it. So I mean, as a viewing, as an audience, I love that it just deals with people's the tagline of Magnolia, or line that they use a few times in there is you may be done with the past, but the past isn't done with you.
Mm.
And that's kind of, you could say the same thing about Pig. That's what that's about too. And I love that it's just full of all these beautifully written and acted human beings that made bad choices in their life and just stuck with them because that's what people do, and just that you make choices that just were not that you just can regret every day and not change because people get stuck in their stuff. And so and sometimes that you need to really be shaken up. And like in Pig, Robin's going around and just, in order to meet his objective of getting his pig back, what he does is every time he hits resistance, he just meets people where they are. So, so he does that with my character, who is reluctant to tell him anything about where his pig is. So he starts literally deconstructing Finway and just taking him apart. And that's the metaphor of the scene and that whole act that talks about deconstructed scallops. And so in order to get what he wants, he has to literally deconstruct Chef Finway emotionally till he gets to a point where he just will now answer the question, where's my pig? And he does kind of the same thing with Alan Arkin's character Darius. He just has to really just take him back to his essence so that he can get the answer that he wants. And in Magnolia, it's just full of all these great performances and these people who are in pain. And the thing that shakes people out of it is the raining of frogs down on Los Angeles. It's just so bizarre and out there. And yet I love how they set it up right from the very beginning. There's that monologue that Ricky Jay has where he starts talking about really interesting things that happened in history that are kind of impossible. That when you hear the story, you go, surely that's not real. But he lists about 5 things like that you can't explain, and yet they happened. And then they start the story. So you've always got this underlying question underneath. As you're watching the movie unfold, he's already set the tone for something really weird is going to happen here. But we'll get to that later. And so you're just watching this stuff go by. So when the last act happens and frogs literally start raining from the sky and just completely stopping people where they are emotionally, because you just can't be in that space anymore because this happened. And I don't know, there's just something that I find just so lovely about that. And just being able to tell people it's going to be okay. But you have to stop what you're doing right now. You have to stop being in the middle of this stuff. I know you're in the middle of this stuff, but you got to stop and it'll be okay. And so that's what I love about that. And Big Lebowski is just Big Lebowski. It's the Coen brothers. And I just love it because it's just, Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, any film with John Goodman in, I'm there. There's just something about John Goodman,
which is I think literally every Coen Brothers movie. I think he's been in all of them. I think
pretty much.
So
he's just endlessly watchable, and it's just that big smile that he has on his face that it just draws you into whatever he does. I think he's big fan of his work.
Yeah, and such a great supporting actor. Mm-hmm. Because that's his job in that is really, and in all the things, just to kind of, different. I'm now racing through all the different things that he did, like "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," where he played the big guy with one eye. I don't love that moment where he picks up a log and is it Steve Buscemi? No, not Steve Buscemi.
John Turturro,
the other John Turturro, just hits him over the head with it, and then starts approaching Clooney, and Clooney's character does not stop eating his sandwich. He just can't register what has just happened. It's like, oh, what'd you do that for, John? And then gets beat up himself, and it's just Yeah.
It's funny because of all of the performances from Goodman, the one that stands out for me, probably my favorite, is him in 10 Cloverfield Lane, where it's a complete throwaway from anything I've seen him in, where he's so haunting and menacing.
Yeah.
And the tension is built up so slowly, so drip fed, but then all of a sudden, bang! It explodes. God, that was such a departure from what I'm used to, but it was really, really interesting to see.
It's great to see good people get good material, and just where you're just able to go, look at that, look what he did with that. That's awesome.
I was wondering about Pig.
Yes,
this is Michael Sarnowski. I keep mispronouncing his surname. Sarnowski. It's his feature film debut, isn't it? As far as I'm aware.
Yes, it is. Yeah, he's done. He and Vanessa Block, who is the co-writer on this, they did a documentary. I know about a rape trial in the Congo.
Okay.
So speaking of trailers for things that you go, I want to sign up for that and watch that, but which I haven't. I think it's now available on Amazon, and I really do want to see it. But because they were involved in it. But yeah, that's and I think also they did a short film together that I'm not sure is available anywhere. Although, it may well be findable now. But yeah, so totally their first thing, and man, you talk about hitting it out of the park.
Yeah, it seems to have such a maturity to the direction of it. I'm genuinely stunned that he's a newbie, so to speak. Yeah, incredible.
Well, the script was so beautifully written. And if you get a chance, I'm sure there'll be a time at which that will be findable and downloadable somewhere. Read it, because if you appreciate film, just reading what the words were on the page and then comparing it to what they got on screen is just beautiful. Because there was so much, and it's on several levels. One, it was an inspiration for everybody who came on board, because they read this script and went, wow, that's a movie that I want to see. That's a movie I want to be a part of. Least of all, Nicolas Cage, who read this and went, wow, yeah, that's something I want to do. And I think I read some interview where he said, yeah, that's one that I won't even have to act. He said, so for him, that's what that meant, was he didn't have to come up with anything, right? He didn't have to sometimes it's a challenge. Many times as an actor, you get a script, or you get some bit of dialogue that's well-intentioned, but hard to play, hard to communicate whatever it is you think they're going for. And sometimes sometimes there isn't any emotional thing to it. Sometimes, like particularly as a supporting or character actor, all you're doing is exposition. You're just being the guy who explains what's happening in the movie, or you may just be, just the cop or the doctor saying he's down the hall. And what do you do with that, really? Just, but all the characters in this script were so well written and intriguing. And I've got a couple of friends who had bigger parts in the movie that were cut down. The part of the Darius Pierce played the part of Edgar, who is the one who runs the fight club there. He had and filmed a 3-page monologue, I think, that really explained the whole fight sequence thing, which is, without that monologue in there, it plays very differently. For instance, I mean, I know I'm sidebarring a bit here, but that particular thing, the whole sort of fight club thing, was not done for money in the original script. They changed it. So he says, you get $500 or whatever it was. What was happening was that it was all of the top chefs, people who worked at these really great restaurants would bring portions of food from their really great restaurant to this thing. And homeless guys would come in and they would be competing for the food, right? So their job was to stand there, get beat up by these frustrated restaurant workers. They would be the guys who would be paying and betting and stuff, but the actual homeless guys were being paid in really, really excellent food.
It's quite that's quite an interesting theme, isn't it? That
it is, isn't it? It's really interesting, and yet the reason that it got cut was not because it didn't work, not because Darius's dialogue wasn't awesome. It took 3 pages to kind of explain that. And it didn't move the story along. It didn't really move as closer to getting Robin back to his pig. You know, it was like what that needed to do. We need to get to that scene. And at the end of him playing on Edgar's terms, Edgar gives him a piece of paper that says, go to Finway's restaurant, or whatever it was it said on there. And all that explanation to get us into the fight, they thought slowed it down.
Okay.
You know, which is, so I'm really looking forward to, when this comes out on whatever it will be coming out, when there's a director's cut or something, you know, where they'll put that stuff back in, because this is right now, it's only a 92-minute movie.
Yeah.
Which is great, because it really moves along, and it gets there, and it just hits you faster than you even know what's happening. But there's all this great stuff in there, like that. He has a thing. There's a character of a drunk guy who's played by Brian Sutherland, who's another Portland area actor. That was a great scene, and he's almost entirely cut out of it. So there are these great things, but again, not because of any fault of their performances or anything. It was just, we got to move this along, and this is a place where it dips, and we have to go. Having said that, I was so gratified that most of my stuff is still in there, because you never know. You know, I mean, I could have they could have cut that entire scene out for all I knew, and happily, Michael thought it was the kind of the emotional core of the movie, so it's in there and it's really featured, and yay me for that. So going back to, the script was so well written that everybody who read it took it on as their own. You know, the cinematographer, Patrick, I'm forgetting his name, Scola, I think. Patrick put a lot of his own money into it to get equipment that he needed to make this work. So it really was a labor of love for so many people, that because he read it and was inspired with what he thought he would like to bring to it. And the music is so beautiful and really makes it work in that way, you know, and really undergirds the emotional content there. And that's from being inspired by the story too. And so, you know, here's Michael coming in for the first time, and what he has done is he's inspired everybody to really bring their best to this. If he had to bully people into doing it, or force people to, or pull performances out of people, it wouldn't have worked the same way. Yeah. So the fact that he walked in and said, I have a vision, this is what we want to do, and everybody got it and said, yeah, I want to do that. So and my part of that, when I got the part, was and forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but I had a meeting with Michael a couple of days before we shot, because I really wanted to talk about what I read in his script and what I wanted to do, and show him, and said, you saw at the audition, this is what I want to do, and I want to make sure that's what you want. And I also want to make sure that if that's your idea too, then please push me to make sure you get what you want for this. And that was really a nice being able to collaborate like that. And that was the answer to some question, I think.
I mean, what I'd love to know, because the scene, you know, your scene, it's your scene. You make that scene for me. What I'd be interested to know is, once you filmed it, once you know that that's the take, did you know in your heart of hearts, I fucking nailed this? Or is there an element of modesty about it? Is there an element of, you know, like you say, you never know if this will even be used? Because, you know, this scene, I'm not trying to blow smoke here, but that it's a scene that made me immediately go on Twitter and talk about it. It's something I wanted to share straight away. Do you know?
Oh, cool.
Do you know when you've filmed that kind of scene that you've nailed it?
This is perhaps the first time in my life where it really felt like that. And for me, when I saw it and saw that I had accomplished everything that I really, really wanted to, was really great. It was really gratifying. And I think that moment first happened when we got there first thing in the morning to run the scene. So this is after, you know, I met with Michael on Saturday and said, you know, this is what I'm going to do. I read your script. This is using all my, so I say all David Knell stuff, right? This is what I'm going to do with this. And he said, yeah, no, that's what I want you to do. I said, okay. I said, just want to make sure that, you know, that we're all on the same page. And so when we got to the set, and again, this was one day. My scene was entirely shot in one day. So I didn't have time to ramp up to anything. I absolutely had to hit the ground running with this, which is why I wanted to talk to Michael ahead of time and see what that was. And so when I got to the set, you know, show up at a parking lot somewhere and there's a trailer, and I put on the chef's costume, which I had tried on a couple of days before, and got into a van. And then there's Nick, and I met him there, and I met Alex, and they already had kind of a bond going because they've been working on this movie for several weeks. And, you know, it's an interesting thing that, like, I'm trying to see what to compare it to, but the crew had already been working for at least a couple of weeks. I think this was the third week of shooting. And here I come, and I want to be a part of this too. I want to be like they're all, you know, everybody's kind of really having this intense experience together. And clearly he and Alex did. You could tell they were really using a lot of shorthand with each other, you know, and I was the guy in today's scene.
Right.
And, you know, and I know that like we got to the restaurant and there was a little room up in that was maybe the manager's office or something. And that's where they put chairs for Nick and Alex to be hanging out. So they're not hanging out with everybody, get some privacy up there. And so we came into the restaurant, and I only ever saw him in full makeup. So, you know, with the bruises and the thing, that was the only way I ever saw him. And looking like he can barely move and going, "Hi, how are you? Good to meet you." And, you know, we sat down and we did the scene, and Michael said, "Okay, let's just run it through. We don't need performances here. We just want to see like where we're going to put the cameras and stuff. So just run it." And because I've done this before and knew exactly the trap, I knew that in that moment I had to give it 1,000%. I had to just in the rehearsal, I had to just go and just do it and do it every time, and not be casual about it and save it for the camera. I knew that I had to show him, you know, hey, look, this is what I got, all these things. And so we ran it, and I just went just as full as I could there. And it was so great to see Nick kind of sit back and go, "Okay, all right, okay, you know, like this is going to be fun." And then it was like, and I got in that moment that I had earned his respect right then, which was great. And now I knew that I could go and play and not, you know, and see what we could come up with and see how it would work. And so and talking to people since then, people who were on the set that day, everybody that I talked to said that particular day was a really special part of the whole shoot. Like that was when things really kind of came together and they kind of went, this is, I think, wow. So that was really great to know. And as I said, when I actually saw it on screen, I saw it at the premiere in Los Angeles, and I'm kind of watching it. My first time seeing it on its own, but also watching it with an audience and watching their responses to it, and watching how people were laughing at all the right places, like all the places that I intended for them to laugh, which is, it's an interesting thing, film acting versus stage acting as a comparison there. On stage, and I've done a lot of stage in my life, there's an audience right there. And everything that you're doing, you have immediate feedback to how is this going, because the audience is there. And if they're, if they're laughing along with you right at the beginning, then you can continue to kind of get them to laugh, preferably if it's a comedy. But also there's times when you can be doing a comedy and you walk out, there's that first joke and you say it and nothing. And then you realize this is just going to be a quiet evening. And sometimes it's because audiences are quiet, and sometimes they're with you, and but every night you have that opportunity to try and sculpt that reaction. And in a movie, you're just doing it right there. So it's just, you got this moment and you get to. We were collaborating enough that what he was giving me with just his intensity, I would, because we said what he's attempting to do, what the character is trying to do, is trying to tear down Finway just so he can just get the answer to his thing, and and my. As an actor, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give him stuff to react off of, So I've got to, because people are watching him, and he has that great monologue in that thing about, we don't always get to have the things that are important in our life or something, whatever that's about, but. I know that a monologue like that really only works if it's affecting the other person. Mm-hmm. I did a short film many years ago with an actor that I love named Art LaFleur, who was he was in Field of Dreams. He played Babe Ruth in The Sandlot. He's somebody that was easily recognizable character actor. And I was in an acting class with him many years ago. We were both students. And what I loved about Art is that he was the best reactor I'd ever known. If you were doing a scene with him, even if you had all the words, his reactions were so great and so nuanced. And so I did a short film, which was essentially a monologue. It was a thing about a guy knocking on somebody's door at 3 a.m. because he'd just broken up with his girlfriend. He's trying to appeal to her father to just say, I need to get back in touch with your daughter. Like Robin's doing. I'm looking for my pig, only it was this guy's daughter. And so I had to convince him that how earnest I was and how in love with her I was. And it's a great little scene. And at the end of it, it's like, I just tell him that I'm so in love, not just with her, but with you for having raised her. And thank you. And I give him a big hug. And there's a moment goes by. And then he says, I don't have a daughter. And I realized that I've been talking to the wrong guy for the last 5 minutes. And that scene only works because of Art's reactions. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. It works. If I had not been getting it works because I was convincing him, and he was showing me that, like, over the course of whatever this was, where I'm just, blurting out to him my love for this woman, even though it's not his daughter, I carried him along emotionally with it. And that totally works only because of his reaction. So you've got Rob's monologue in this scene there. And my job was to sell his monologue, right?
Mm.
So which meant that everything that he said, the point of what he was saying was to tear me down emotionally. If my job is to give him that, to give for us as the audience, and also Amir is the other character in that scene. They keep cutting back to him, and he's watching this happen between these two guys, right? And his reaction is so great because he's almost in tears watching these two people have this conversation. So Amir is kind of representing us as the audience. Like we're watching these two guys have this scene, but we're watching Amir's emotional reaction, which we're kind of relating to watching these two guys having that scene. And I wonder if they didn't cut back to him, if you as an audience would have had the same reaction to it. I don't know, but it's really, there's so many layers to it that it got us all underneath that thing. So we're feeling for each of the characters, and that they pulled that off is just so cool.
Incredible. Yeah. I mean, you've mentioned Amir, Alex Wolff. I have to confess, this wasn't a person I knew much about prior to watching Pig.
Yeah.
I know he was in the two Jumanji films, but he was very much he was The Rock before he became The Rock.
Oh, right. Okay.
And he was in a show, The Naked Brothers Band, which is a Nickelodeon TV show. So I think that a younger generation may know him, but it's someone who escapes me until seeing him in Pig. He's got the world at his feet, hasn't he? I mean, he's a really good actor.
Now, yeah. He was
really impressed.
I was very impressed. I was a little dubious when I met with Michael, the director, beforehand, and he said, "Oh, Alex wants to be called Amir. He wants to be called by his character's name."
Okay.
And I kind of went, I don't know who this kid is, but I'm sure he hasn't earned that yet. I'm sorry. I've been doing this. No, I'm not going to call him Amir. I hope that's not a problem for you, but we'll see. But having said that, I really, really loved what he did with this movie. It was there was some, and yeah, he right now the doors are open for him to show even more, but that's, that was his character's job, was to kind of represent the audience in this, to be the sort of the emotional viewpoint in this, that we're watching Rob go through all these things, but we're watching that through his eyes. And he really did that well. He was, he let us in that scene that he's got when he's outside of his mother's hospital
room.
Oh my God. Just that, where he can't even go in. And again, you look at what that was written that way, right? That's like Michael and Vanessa wrote this scene where this kid's having a conversation with his mother, and you're not sure what's going on at first, I think, but he's having a conversation with his comatose mother, and he can't even be in the room with her, but he can be in the hallway. And it's like, wow, the emotional gymnastics that one has to go through to be, and then the nurse showing up says, "I'm about to clean out her trach. Do you want to go in?" And he go, "Oh God, no, I can't be in the same room with her." It's like, wow. And he pulled that off so beautifully. And it's just, and when he's trying to, that scene when he's at the mirror trying to get himself revved up, and he's going, I'm the king. I'm the king. I'm the king. And it's like, yeah, he did. He pulled off all those things, and it was really great to watch. So, yeah, he did earn my respect over the course of this. Not that
fantastic. We've had a few listener questions in, David, if you don't mind us asking them.
No, sure.
Yeah, some of our loyal listeners have tweeted in for us. Now, one thing, I was speaking to one of my friends about this. One thing that I love, especially about American movies, is the idea of a quintessential, easy for me to say, English pub. Now, an English pub for us is stale beer, even staler crisps. And it's not a very glamorous thing at all, really. But
Right.
across the pond, an English pub is very much a different. I feel a very different kind of vision of what an English pub is.
A bit more romanticized, I would
Yeah,
think.
a bit more Shakespearean, perhaps, or
Yes,
Victorian.
Right.
But one of our listeners, Tom Keeney, wants to know: you can fulfill your dream of opening an English pub. What would be your signature dish?
What would be my signature? Oh gosh.
I mean, are you going full English and going, bangers and mash, sausages and mashed potato, or are you going a little different?
Well, yeah, I think I know. What was Finway's thing was doing Scotch eggs, but with liver instead of pork, which is like, okay, that's kind of English, or just making them with it, just haggis on a stick or something. I think would be good.
It's good to me.
Yeah, I'll take that.
I'll take that.
David Evans wants to know: did you feel that you would be typecast as an Ernie after having this as your character name in both Turner and Hooch and Total Recall?
It's also my name in what was it? Oh, I'll remember. My Blue Heaven. I played a clerk in there, and I had them change it to Ernie as well, because I thought at some point my biography would be called Three Guys Named Ernie, and I think I do fit. I think an Ernie. I have an Ernie vibe to me, I guess. But
I mean,
in fact, in Turner and Hooch, there was at least. There was the old guy who used to own Hooch before the Tom Hanks character got him. I forget what his character's name was, but I think people assumed that was Ernie because he seemed more of an Ernie at the time. An old crusty guy named his name is Ernie. How you doing? I'm Ernie. But I think Ernie somehow fits. So.
There's worse ways to like make your money. Listen, we need an Ernie. Who are we going to call? Nell's available.
Who we call Ernie. That's right. Well, I've told people for years that the ideal thing that you want when you're a character actor is for someone to pick up the script and go, oh, that's the David Knell part, and but like. Most of the stuff that I've done was quite a while ago. So it's like, I think you may want a young David Knell if that's what you're looking for. But also I watch things all the time, and my wife and I will go, oh, that's the David Knell part, or whether they're named Ernie or not. But it used to be like the guy I played in Total Recall, right? The sort of nerdy sidekicky thing. There was a point at which they stopped being played by me and started being played by Asian girls. I think that was the thing, like just sort of nerdy girls instead. And it's like, okay, well, I'm aging out of that part. I will pass
the natural attrition of things.
The math, yes.
Andrew Wright wants to know, and this is generally in your career, not necessarily Pig. Is there a scene that was shot that you were really proud of, but ultimately didn't make the final cut, and now will never see the light of day?
Yes. I have specifically one of the. I have a couple of variations on. I played Mozart in an episode of Blossom TV series a bunch of years ago. That was a 5-page scene that got cut down to a 1-page scene to make room for a cameo by Sonny Bono of Sonny and Cher fame. So, which is why anybody mentions Sonny Bono, I go, Bono. But I also did a movie called, I'm forgetting the name of it now. It was a movie with Alan Arkin and Peter Falk. Big Trouble is what it was called. It's not the one with Tim Allen, a different one. It never had a theatrical release. It barely got to video release. I think you can probably find it now on Amazon or something. That being said, I'm not in it. But I had a really great day of shooting. It was originally written and directed by Andrew Bergman, I believe. But sometime before my scene got shot, he got fired for some reason. It happens. And Peter Falk asked if they could maybe get John Cassavetes, who was a good friend of his and incredible director. Did a lot of really great indie films in the 60s and 70s, and so John Cassavetes came on to direct, and the scene took place in a hardware store. Happened to be a few blocks from where I lived in Burbank in Los Angeles, and the story was about, there was something where they were going to rob the safe of the corporation that Alan Arkin's character worked for, and so they come into a hardware store to buy dynamite, and I played the hardware store guy, and we didn't have dynamite, so I ended up selling them 50 pounds of charcoal briquettes, and we basically improvised the entire scene, and it was so great improvising with these two like masters of improvisation and making every line different and just trying different things, and was so much fun. And by the time we got to the end of the scene, I realized this scene is not going to be in the movie at all. Oh, and it was not, but it was an awesome day of playing with a couple of masters. So, and you will never see it.
That's a shame. It sounds great, to be fair. Finally, Ash Dolan, you're planning a birthday party, maybe your own, maybe not. What film, TV location do you book for this party? And which 3 people do you invite to the birthday party? Let's pretend it's your party, so you can try if you want to.
It's my 60th birthday coming up in September. My brother was asking me, "Hey, so what do you want to do? Do you want to have a party?" And I'm thinking, no, I really don't want to have a party. So the idea of having a party at all is
exhausting.
It's exhausting, but just because it popped into my head, wherever it was that they shot the bowling alley where they shot The Big Lebowski, nice. We could do it there.
Fantastic.
And we could have just the guys who were bowling there, just have John Turturro and John Goodman and the dude himself. I think that'd be great.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing. Wonderful. So what's next?
also Sam Elliott would have to sit at the bar and
the best
with the cowboy hat and the mustache.
Yeah.
Did you know? Here's a behind the scenes tip. You know, he does not that all of those mustaches are fake. He has a little kit that he brings with him, that different mustaches. He's got the one that goes down here and the one that goes like that. But in walking around, he does not have a mustache, and nobody knows who he is. That is true.
Incredible. So what's next for David Knell, other than preparing for your Best Supporting Actor Oscar nomination?
There we go. That's just that. I am working on theatrically. I'm working on a one-person play about John Barrymore. It's called Barrymore, and it was written by William Luce, who is a really wonderful playwright who wrote Belle of Amherst and a bunch of other one-person shows. And I'm committing that to memory right now. We've got a couple of soft bookings lined up, but that's what I'm looking forward to do. And then who knows? Because like this thing here, if it turns out that this propels my life in another direction, I will happily go along wherever it takes me. Incredible.
I mean, I know it's still very early days, but I do have hopes that there may be some Oscar love heading way.
Well, that would
be as good as anything I've seen this year.
It's I've been to the Oscars once, back when As Good as It Gets was was up there, because
the Jack Nicholson film,
the Jack Nicholson thing. Because my wife and I were friends with Helen Hunt, and we went to support her, and it was great. And I've not been back since. I've been an Academy member for many years, but this would be a good reason to go. If this gets anything, I'm there. I will totally put my hat in and go and support it and yell and go, yeah.
I hope you remember us when you're up on stage at the Academy
Okay.
Who are those two?
By
Who are those
name.
two bald Ozzy Osbourne sounding
There we go.
Brits?
Absolutely. So, okay. This has been fun.
Yeah,
Thanks for,
really enjoyed it, David. Thank you very
hanging
much
out.
for your time. I was going to say this evening, but obviously it's early, well, mid-morning for you, isn't
it's
it?
noon. It's noonish right now. So time for me to heat up the rest of my coffee and go do stuff. I have David Knell stuff to do. whatever that is, wherever it takes me, I'll be
Excellent.
Amazing. Thank you so
David
much for
Knell
your time.
stuff.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All
Enjoy
right,
the rest
guys.
of your day, David.
there. Thanks. You too. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And then the awkward thing where I can't figure out what. That's it. All right. Bye.
Bye.
See ya. Bye-bye. So that was us chatting with acting superstar. Yeah, why not? Future Oscar hopeful in my eyes, David Knell. Hope you enjoyed it. I think Stu is going to be kicking himself that he could not make it for this episode. But I enjoyed myself. Matt, did you?
Yeah, it was brilliant. We always really appreciate anybody that's willing to come on, but we really did put a lot of time into going through, exploring, and letting us peek behind the curtain a little bit as well. Some actors are a little hesitant sometimes to give away, the kayfabe, so to speak. I've been watching too much Dark Side of the Ring, so I'm like involved in that too much at the minute. But he was talking quite candidly, quite openly. Someone that's been there and done that and bought the t-shirt, and just really, really pleased that he's taken part, and hope that it's as enjoyable to the people listening than as it was for us to record.
Yeah, and I really liked hearing the fact that Nick Cage wasn't an arsehole on set. I imagine that he could be an absolute diva at times, but you got the impression with Pig that was never going to be the case, that it felt like you saw a tight-knit family on screen.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it sounded like. So I'm really pleased to hear that, like, the film was what I hoped it would have been.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it almost seems in a way that you get the impression that Nick Cage at this point would be like the wily old veteran in a locker room that you need to impress first before you get his respect, like mean Mark Calloway. Like you've got to get his respect first before he'll like talk to you. But it's, from what David was saying, obviously he did the rehearsal, blew it away straight away, and then Nick Cage was very much like, okay, I've got something I can work with here. This is going to be exciting. And I wasn't waxing lyrical. That scene, made the movie for me. I spoke about it the second I saw it. Yeah. And I'm glad that David was in a position to talk to us two bald bastards from Wolverhampton about it.
Yeah, like you are right. I mean, he did mention that was the heart of the film. That scene was the heart of the film, and it did feel like that was the best way to, like, the middle part of a page. Like you've got your first half and your second half, and that scene is what bound it all together. It was the link into the movie for me.
It's the filling of a delicious sandwich. Like it's not the same without it. I need to watch Pig again anyway, just in general. But I think I need to watch it again and maybe appreciate a little more some of these nuances that David spoke about. Yeah, especially in relation to what was cut from the film, and explore that in a way. I really hope that, I would like to think the popularity and everything else of it will mean it gets a cinema release and or a good like physical DVD Blu-ray release in this country, and be able to kind of explore that world a little bit more. Something hopefully our friends at the Lighthouse will be able to jump on board with. Yeah, fingers crossed. Like it definitely deserves eyes on it. It's really good. I know it's scheduled for release on the 20th of August, which this should be going out on the 23rd, I think is how I planned it. So it should be out as you're listening now. And I do implore you to find a way to see this movie, whether it's available in your local cinema or if it's, Amazon Prime, however you can get hold of it. It's worth the investment. And I think, as David said about, it might not sound like the type of film that you particularly want to see, but once you're in there, you're hooked. And that's exactly how I felt first time. I went in thinking, oh, this will be a bit of Nick Cage craziness fun.
and then I was sobbing halfway through. Like, this is
You're
not
right,
what
though.
I paid for.
No, you're right though, but I don't know how to say this about it sounding offensive to all those who are involved. But there's an element of Stockholm syndrome about this movie, in that you shouldn't enjoy it. You know what I mean? Not shouldn't enjoy it because of the quality, but you shouldn't enjoy being made feeling emotionally drained by it. But you do. There's something oddly satisfying about this film being tearing you apart emotionally. There's something about it. It's very cleansing in a way, I guess.
Yeah.
Acceptance of grief, perhaps. I don't know. It's just got a really. I said it in the interview. It's interview. God, what are we like? In the expose. I said, but it is very delicate. But it's got the strength of a bulldozer at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think going into it expecting it to be John Wick was probably the best thing that could have happened.
Totally.
It became unexpected, and a good surprise.
The film felt like a fire almost, and it just cleared all the ground and just left everything bare at the end. And I love that sort of gut-wrenching feel that it feels cathartic at the end of it, and that's very much how I felt. Like when I said to him that I haven't seen much better this year, like I was being 100% genuine. This is. Like when we come to do our 2021 top 5, like there's gonna have to be some damn good films if this isn't in there.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, for the people listening to this show, watch it. Let us know how it might be the case that in a few months' time we return just to do a feedback session on it, like just what people thought about it, just as a feature, as part of a question cast, maybe. We'd love to be able just to see it. Listen, we don't get paid a fucking penny for how Pig does, but we love it that much that we'd like people to share our experiences with it as well.
Absolutely. Obviously, we will be doing a picture pod on Pig at some point, but I kind of want to leave it a few months and let as many people as possible see it, rather than us talk about it and maybe spoil a few elements that I think needs to be experienced firsthand.
Definitely.
So we'll be coming back to that at some point down the line. I think next week we're up to a question cast. I honestly don't know where we are with our schedule at the moment. But just keep an eye on the socials at CageFightingPod, and we'll tell you what's coming up next. If you've got any emails, if you've seen Pig and you just want to let us know what you thought about it, drop us a review, and that is cagefightingpod@gmail.com. Make sure you're subscribed, and if you could leave us a review, we would thoroughly appreciate it. So for this week, Matt, would you like to say goodbye?
Take it easy, guys. Look after yourselves.
It's goodbye from me, and remember, be excellent to each other.